Hey there, and welcome back to another Christmas film retrospective. And I'm feeling especially festive today, and so I figured I'd take some time to gush about one of my favourite Christmas films in recent years. And honestly, one of my favourite animated films in recent years. Hell, just one of my favourite films of all time in both of those categories. And of course, if you've read the title and you've seen the thumbnail, you'll know I'm talking about the film Klaus, which is a Spanish-American animation distributed by Netflix. The film tells the story of Jesper, the spoiled and lazy son of the Norwegian Postmaster General, who, under threat of disinheritance, is sent to the remote northern town of Smeerensburg, where he's expected to set up a post office and hit a quota of 6,000 letters a year. When he arrives, he finds a town divided into two clans in a feud that has led to stagnation. The children don't go to school, the adults don't send letters, and he has no real hope. And so, in search of anybody that's reasonable, Jesper meets a lone woodsman in a cabin out beyond the town. Accidentally dropping a drawing that he's found, drawn by a lonely child in Smeerensburg, the woodsman, Klaus, finds Jesper and has him deliver a toy to the child to make him smile. And from then on, the two team up to keep giving out toys, with Jesper telling the children that if they write a letter to Mr. Klaus, he'll deliver them. But he'll only do it if they're good. And thus, the legend of Santa begins. The town begins to flourish as the children do good deeds, which in turn inspires the adults to do the same. And this is much to the frustration of the Allingbo and the Crumb family leadership, the two clans. The school reopens and Jesper and the teacher Alva start to grow closer. The children learn to read, everything's great, but of course, the angry town leaders begin to plot. And they bring Jesper's father to the town on Christmas Eve to take him home and reveal that he'd been doing all of this for himself. But as they leave, Jesper has a change of heart and he returns to help save Christmas from the Crumbs and the Allingbos. It all goes great. They become local legends and they continue to expand their operation every year. Alva and Jesper get married and have kids. And eventually Klaus dies, joining his late wife as a Christmas spirit and becoming the Santa that everybody knows and loves. The end. And a damn wholesome ending too, very sweet. And yeah, like I said, I absolutely love the film. And I think the world at large agrees with my assessment. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 95% critical approval rating and a 96% audience score, which, yeah, there's a very good score on both fronts. And rare that they're so close together. Usually there's a little bit of disparity between them. But here, they just pulled out great scores on both fronts. And according to Netflix, the film pulled in views from over 40 million members in its first 4 weeks after its release. So that's a lot of views. And on top of that, it got nominated for Best Animated Picture at the Oscars and lost to Toy Story 4. And honestly, I think that's a bit of a robbery, but okay. But whatever, it won Best Picture at the Annie Awards and a bunch of other categories, and it also won Best Animated Picture at the BAFTAs, so all in all, it was well received by almost everybody, and it proved that it was a high quality film deserving of praise and recognition. There's so many Christmas origin stories and so many Christmas films in general, and really, this has cemented itself as one of the best of them. And so today, that's what I want to do. I want to talk about why the film Klaus is so good, and what sets it apart from the many other Christmas films that have been released since the dawn of cinema. And okay, for starters, let's just talk about the animation style and quality. Clearly, it looks good, right? I don't think it takes a world-class artist to say that clearly the animation's of a high quality. And honestly, there are few animated films getting released these days that don't look good in some way. Sometimes the artistic style might not be best, it might be weirdly stylized or something like that, but usually the actual quality is high. So of course these days it's hardly high praise to say that it looks good. But that being said, I actually loved its distinct visual style. It's kind of odd and alien, and yet recognizable. Every character, and there were so many, looked so wacky and yet unique. It was a visual feast, and I really loved the return of traditional animation. Look, I love the rapid advances in 3D animation as much as anybody, but there's something truly nostalgic about traditionally animated films. They have this quality about them that you don't find in more modern techniques, where it feels like it comes right off the page of a storybook, and it brings you right back to your childhood. And I think that's a very special quality to have. And then from visuals to audio. The soundtrack is honestly so good. Like the score itself is very good, very festive and beautiful, but there's nothing super iconic. But it's still good. But then there's the original song Invisible, which, yeah, that's one of my favorites. No idea how it didn't at least get nominated for Best Original Song, like anywhere, but okay. And yeah, that song plays over such an iconic scene where Klaus and Jesper deliver a toy they stayed up all night making for the little girl in the Sami camp. It's one of the most wholesome and emotional moments in the entire film, and a lot of it's to do with the soundtrack. Such a good song. On top of that, the voice acting's really great, and honestly, that's really refreshing. I'm finding more and more it's becoming a bit of a trend to move away from having professional voice actors in prominent roles and moving towards casting almost solely on name value alone. And you can really hear the difference. But here, I don't think it's actually doing that. Yeah, the prominent roles aren't being played by pro voice actors. Although there are some professional voice actors in the cast, it's clear that the actors were being chosen not just on name value alone, but because they're genuinely a good fit for the part. Because they actually really embodied the characters that they were voicing and made the movie better from their efforts. And I don't think there was a single performance in the film that made me cringe or wish like they'd stop talking. And in this day and age, I feel like that's kind of a rarity to have a film with a 100% hit rate. But it's true, and so it looks good, has a great soundtrack, and a good cast that gives good performances. So it's going from strength to strength, but obviously that's not enough to make a film truly good. It needs to have a good script, good dialogue, and a core narrative that flows well and is truly engaging. And Klaus does all of this and more. I feel like it's always a risk to make a Christmas film, because after all, they're so oversaturated. We've seen origin stories of all shapes and sizes for Santa, we've seen him save Christmas over and over again, seen so many different versions. From swashbuckling warriors to the classic jolly fat guy to old has-beens past their best. And so there really isn't all that much room to wiggle and find something fresh, to make something that feels new and unique, to carve out its own path. But I think they managed to succeed in this endeavour. They chose to make a more grounded and realistic take on things. To have the Christmas trip start not as charity, but as a way for the character of Jesper to make the town embrace sending letters, and by doing so, improve his own life as the postman and let him go home. Santa, he doesn't start giving out the presents just because. He doesn't just want to be nice for the sake of it, he has to realise that there are sad kids, and therefore be taken out of his shell, which in turn leads to him gifting out the presents he'd made for his own children before he and his wife realised they couldn't have any. But after he gives out the toys, he wants to stop, and he has to work through that too. They don't begin together with the desire to change the town, but they do, and this in turn changes them. Jesper becomes less selfish, he falls in love, and he does things out of the good of his heart, as opposed to trying to gain something for himself. And on the other side of things, Klaus learns to embrace his newfound family, moving past the pain of his wife's death and bringing joy to the children of the town. It's heartwarming, it's tragic and funny and ridiculous. It's filled with exciting action and colourful characters and witty one-liners. It's one of those films that really lingers in your mind for ages after it's ended. And it really cemented itself for me as one of the all-time Christmas classics, and my definitive origin story for Santa. An origin where he's simply a good person who does good things, and then after he dies, he becomes some sort of Christmas spirit. There's so much to love about the film. Great character development, a great story that's succinct and flows well with little fat on it, and a heartfelt and wholesome message. And so from a Christmas movie, what more could you possibly want? And so yeah, that's the end of the video. And I would like to remind you that these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of Klaus if you've seen it? You like it, hate it, think it's the best Christmas movie ever, or maybe not? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know.